We always hang the walls after the ceilings. Generally, we hang the first wall panels high on the wall against the ceiling, and the guys are getting ready to do just that. Ira's measuring the height of the window header, while Jeff starts nails along the top of the panel. Ira scribes the header height onto the panel with his utility knife. There are two reasons to start the nails before lifting the panel. First, the nails will tell us where the studs are once we have lifted the panel in front of them. Second, starting the nails makes it much easier and faster to drive the nails this way while your other hand is busy holding up the panel. First tack down the top edge, then nail or screw the other edges. Jeff and Ira get the length of the bottom panel, and I use a drywall saw to cut out the window opening. I just guide the saw along the edge of the studs framing the window, sawing until I hit the bottom of the header. Since the back has already been scored, I just snap the panel forward and cut along the crease to free the waste piece. Same sort of thing for the bottom panel.
15 1/4.
Measure and scribe to mark the height of the window bottom on the back of the panel. And then start the nails along the top edge. We use a panel lifter to raise the bottom panel up against the top panel. The foot lift works great for any length panels as long as you're going up 1.5 inches or less. It frees both hands for nailing. I've already located the outlet boxes with X's on the floor. So here I am taking off the height to the center of the boxes and marking that above each of the floor marks. Notice that the bottom of the panel has not been fastened yet. This goes just like that ceiling box. But don't apply too much pressure against the panel with the router or with your foot, or the drywall will bust out as the box is cut. That's why you don't fasten the bottom edge before cutting out these boxes. Here's a termite's view of the bit following the outside perimeter of the box. If you don't have a drywall router, you're still in business. With a 2-foot framer square, mark the electrical box edges in height, top and bottom, on the floor. Once the panel is tacked in place, transfer the measurements to the drywall face. Now I carefully follow along the marks with my drywall utility saw. This method is so accurate that I don't even worry about feeling for the box with the saw. If I were to run into the electrical box slightly, I'd simply adjust my aim. Electrical outlet covers won't overlap this opening by much, so you've got to be accurate here. If you're even 1/4 inch off, it'll have to be patched. On sections of walls 4 feet wide or less, I'll often stand the drywall panel on end so that the entire wall is covered by a solid piece. No seams, and no need to cut the panel to width before hanging. I just hang the whole panel and then cut along the outside stud with my utility knife. This time the cutoff won't be wasted. I'll use it later above the closet doorway. When hanging a wall with a doorway, we attach the drywall right across the opening. You don't have to scribe the back because it's accessible. Saw from the finished side of the drywall. You're less likely to tear the face paper this way because the saw cuts on the push stroke and you're pushing into the paper. From the back side, score along the top of the doorway. snap the section inward and cut it free from the front. Drywall can't be forced into place. If you force a piece that's even a little too wide, it'll bust apart at the edges. Remove the piece and use a drywall rasp to shave the excess width from the edge. That's all it needed, and now the piece fits perfectly. On gabled walls, I like to hang the bottom panels first and work my way up. We start by measuring the height of the little bit of left-hand corner where the next panel will fit. All of our measurements go onto a sketch I made on a scrap of drywall.
Same as the last sheet, 14 feet.
Because these panels are 4 feet high, I use a 4-foot T-square to find where the top edge will hit against the ceiling.
And 74.5.
The real dimension is 74.5, but I write down 74.25. The quarter-inch difference will literally get us out of a bind later. We mark the angle with a chalk line and cut with a utility knife. And I smooth out the bumps and rough edges with my drywall rasp. We don't have to pre-start these nails because we're stacking the panels up the wall so we can see where the studs are. Along the ceiling edge, we've pencil marked the stud locations. Somehow we've cut this panel too long. It overlaps the corner nailer for the adjacent wall, but instead of taking it down and remeasuring, I just used the nailer as a cutting guide and trimmed the edge in place. Another way to treat the intersection of a ceiling and wall is called a floating corner. It's designed to reduce nail pops in the corners due to settling of the framing. We've attached a ceiling panel with screws 7 inches in from the corner. When the wall panel is hung, we keep the top row of screws about 8 inches down, so no fasteners go into the top plate of the wall frame. Use this technique if your building was framed with non-kiln-dried lumber or with kiln-dried material that's been rained on and never had a chance to dry properly after being framed. The edge of the ceiling panel can't sag because it's held up by the wall panel. After all the drywall is attached, you want to protect all outside angle corners with a metal corner bead. Here I'm installing a full-length corner bead, leaving its bottom end 1/2 inch off the floor. If there's any settling, the bead won't bind and come loose. I drive the nails in pairs on opposite sides of the bead. Make sure the bead's edges lay flat against the wall.